Welcome to episode 5 of Sora is Bad, where we use the new OpenAI tool Sora for video generation, and we look at the recents page to see what people are generating with it, kind of break it down, give some critiques, and basically see where it fails, which is pretty common. For video number 1, I can already see quite a few issues on this page, but let's go to this one. This prompt says, Chinese girl in her 20s outfit, women wear yoga pants and yoga clothes, features girl look. So this was translated from another language, but looking at it, there are some very obvious issues. Number 1, right here in this frame, she has 3 arms. Now, most humans I know don't have 3 arms. Another kind of issue is at first it looks like it could be the sunlight in the room moving almost like a time lapse, like the light from the window would move across the floor. But nope, she's just kind of standing still, but sliding on top of that floor along with her 3 arms. So immediately we can tell that this is not a good generation, even though she looks like a human, the scene looks realistic, the movement and motion is not. So this one is a failure in a few different ways. For video number 2, let's take a look at this zebra really quick. And this is a remix of another video. The original one said zebra riding a bicycle, which, actually it did an okay job with this. Then they did their strong remix, add 2 legs to operate the handles, and add ear of elephant. So there are some elephant ears up there, but these adding 2 legs for the handlebars, that's just a mess. I'm not sure what it's trying to accomplish there. And those pedals are sticking out further in this one. So now the feet aren't actually pedaling any pedals. They're just pedals with extensions kind of flopping around on the sides. And then these 2 legs on the handlebars, again, no idea what it was thinking there. For video number 3, let's take a look at some basketball. All right, so this is a pretty long prompt. I just read it, but I'm not going to read it in this video. Basically, it just needs to be a dynamic, intense scene of women's basketball. She's going for a layup, and let's take a look at it. So immediately on this first frame, she kind of has like a ghost of an additional hand right here, but that's not a big deal. That could very easily be missed. The issue is looking at how she's handling the basketball and how it's kind of moving around does not work, physics-wise. And we very commonly see this issue of footsteps not matching up with the ground movement. So it looks like they're kind of sliding or skating on the surface. And right here is another very major issue with physics. I know the ball is spinning and that can have some effect on its trajectory in the air, but not like this. In the prompt, she's supposed to be going for a layup, which at first it looks like she could be, plausibly, but it doesn't get that far. There's no hoop on this side. Another issue is that it's female basketball players. It doesn't say anything about a male anywhere, and it looks like her teammate is pretty masculine. I don't want to make any assumptions, but, he even has a beard and stuff. Now, one thing I will give it props for is, the crowd in the background looks pretty good. The arena looks okay, other than these kind of like squiggly sections, which would normally be, very straight or at least curved in a way that makes sense. And both her and her teammates' jerseys seem to match pretty well. So, that's a bonus. Another kind of unusual thing, we know that she's not going in for the layup, but her eyes are pretty fixed up and to the right, like she could be looking at the hoop. But then here, after the ball does that weird thing, she kind of starts looking like she's following something else that's moving across the screen above her to our left, and I'm not sure what that would be. Professional athletes are pretty focused, so she has the ball, she knows where that is. We know there aren't any other players up there, so whatever is going on, I doubt if she would be that distracted by it. Moving on to video number 4, let's see what this was supposed to be. A cute little orange cat is beckoning happily without a background. So it did get a little orange kitten. There isn't much of a background, just a white scene, but as we've come to expect, a third paw pops out of nowhere. They reach up with their first one, that second one kind of drops down. Right now I see 1, 2, 3, 4. One thing just popped into my head with this. Maybe Sora knows that animals are supposed to have 4 legs. So right here in the beginning, we can see it starts out with 4, but then that rear, its left, our right leg is kind of obscured by that front paw. And as soon as it is, that's when that other paw pops out. Because at this point, if we count the legs the cat has, we can see 1, 2, 3, 4. We don't see a fifth at that moment. Then as we continue on and that other one is more visible behind there, those two front right paws kind of blend back into each other. I don't know if that's actually what's going on here, but it could potentially be an explanation for some of the frequent wonkiness that we see with extra limbs and paws and things like that. For number 5, let's take a look at this one. The prompt says, a close-up of a barista making an espresso in a modern cafe. So immediately, this looks good. This looks plausible. That could be an espresso machine. That looks like it could be a barista. There's definitely a coffee cup right there. So let's start it from the beginning. And as it goes through, they kind of bring their hands up and kind of hold it there in an odd way. I'm not sure why those rear fingers are kind of pinched like that. It's almost like they should be manipulating part of the machine, but they're not. And the thumb on the handle of that front coffee cup is kind of unusual. So rather than them making an espresso, we have the scenery there, and then they just kind of like bring their hands up, hold it there for a second, and then bring them away. So not a very convincing making of an espresso. Again, the image quality is good. The reflections on the front of the shiny machine look good, but their actual actions with their hands, it's a total miss. This would be an unusable clip in a lot of situations, unless, and I've mentioned this before, somebody might go and take from the first frame, and they might just go to here as they're reaching up, and then cut to a separate shot where some espresso is actually coming out of the machine in a close-up to that coffee cup. So the first second or two of this might be usable. The entire clip would not be. Looking at number 6, let's go with this one. Looks pretty interesting. An ultra-realistic video of a polar bear and an elephant sharing a table for two in a Thai restaurant eating pad gras pao, if that's how you say that. So right off the bat, it looks like there's pretty cool looking polar bear elephant hybrid and then an elephant on the other side. But then we have some really unusual things happening here with that trunk. So right there, it's definitely part of the face. They're putting food into their mouth with the trunk like an elephant might do, but then all of a sudden that nose kind of pops through and the rest of the trunk kind of becomes this part of the face. And then it kind of comes back out from that part of the face, moves back up to the nose area, turns back into a trunk that's attached, and that's not it. It goes back again as the polar bear kind of reaches over to the elephant's hand. So compared to the prompt, it does have those subjects. It has a polar bear, it has an elephant, that's a table for two, looks like it could potentially be a Thai restaurant or something. But as far as what's actually happening here, unless you're trying to show off some weird trippy scene, this isn't gonna cut it for what they asked for. For video number 7, let's check this out. This has a storyboard. A man is standing indoors holding an iPhone in his hand. He's wearing a casual shirt and jeans. The floor is polished wood, reflecting the soft ambient light. The man appears distracted, looking at the phone with a concentrated expression. Then the iPhone slips from the man's hand and begins to fall. Then the iPhone hits the floor and the screen shatters, scattering shards. So let's take a look at the whole thing. All right, so multiple issues. Number 1, this kind of establishing shot should have been a man holding a phone. He's wearing these clothes, so I can see those clothes in the background. The floor is polished wood, but he's supposed to appear distracted, and it's supposed to be in his hand. So immediately in the first frame, we can see that there's a phone on the floor. There is a person standing in the background in some jeans, and it is on the polished wood floor. But it's supposed to start with the phone in his hand, and since there's already one on the floor with what looked like some scraps maybe broken off, it kind of jumped ahead. But nope, then this other phone falls, and it does look like it could be an iPhone. But then when it hits the floor, it kind of has a weird bend to it and bounce, and then it lays flat, but it kind of floats there for a second while that bottom one moves around, and then it kind of hovers there, and that's it. So We don't have the man holding the phone in his hand. We don't have any sort of look on his face because we can't see his face. There's already a phone on the floor, but a second one drops, and when it drops, it doesn't shatter or anything. It just kind of floats there oddly. So again, the physics are messed up. It doesn't follow the prompt very well at all, and this is another failure of a clip, unfortunately. For number 8, this looks like a pretty interesting one, and it looks familiar, so I have an idea of what they're going for here. It is a storyboard with 3 prompts. The first one's pretty long. A young man dressed in a red vest and jeans stands next to a unique time-traveling vehicle. The vehicle's gull-wing doors are open, showcasing its advanced interior filled with glowing controls and a prominent energy source. The young man appears both excited and a bit anxious. Behind him, a small-town backdrop reflects its 1980s charm, featuring classic cars and quaint storefronts. The scene embodies the spirit of adventure and time travel, setting the stage for an extraordinary journey. The second part of the storyboard is the time-traveling vehicle's wheels lift off the ground as it begins to hover, surrounded by blue electric sparks. Finally, the vehicle accelerates into the distance, eventually vanishing in a burst of sparks, having traveled to another time. So let's step through this. We do have a young man in a red vest and jeans. There is a car there with gull-wing doors that are open. Well, kind of gull-wing doors. There is a blue glow inside. It looks like there are actually 3 bucket seats right there for some reason. And as we step through, that light in the middle turns off. Those wheels are spinning and kind of morphing. The light turns back on, and out from that front wheel pops another car and a half, kind of. It does have the blue energy sparks. The new car is there. The man's kind of reacting to it. Now he's chill. Oh, but then, guess what? His back becomes his front. We see this all the time. And now his back is facing the car. That other car that just popped into existence is now gone. Maybe it went to the future. Who knows? And then we're just kind of back to that dude standing in front of this car. And let's just play it through. So yeah, almost none of this clip would be usable if you're trying to remake or make a parody of something like Back to the Future. It has the subject matter, but as soon as there's any sort of movement or physics or effects, it all falls apart. And I don't know what its deal is with flipping people around so their back is their front so frequently. I mean, it is not uncommon at all. For number 9, let's go right here. So this one is a 1940s styled Visit Cuba tourist commercial showcasing beautiful women, gambling, and nightlife. So immediately I could see this plausibly being in the 1940s. It looks like this is on some sort of an actual film thing that we're watching. The outside doesn't really move with it like, it would be a film, but, we'll let that pass. Looks like there are different typos and stuff in the text. We see that quite a bit. But rather than play this through, we're just going to step through. So we have this shot. There's an old car on the right. These 2 women in red dresses right here. When all of a sudden the woman in the red dress on the left, so the middle woman right now, this one, just kind of turns around and boom, now she's in a white dress next to this woman. Continuing on, that woman in the red dress, the one that's left, kind of turns into a ghost and melds into that car in a very unusual way. This continues, showing the gambling that was prompted. Then all of a sudden it cuts to this other scene where it looks like there's some dancing, another woman in a red dress, but out from behind her, now there's nobody there right now. All of a sudden somebody else pops out from behind her. 1, 2 women. Now it's 1 woman in a red dress, and at some point her red dress, the front, kind of becomes more white or off-white. The new woman, or 2, see 2 women right there that popped into existence here, now they're kind of like a trio dancing around. And then it kind of ends. So watching that all the way through, woman in the red dress turns into white. This one goes into the car. A new scene. Woman in a red dress. Out pops 2 more. This one joins their dance. And that's the end of the clip. So, again, if this is some kind of fever dream, or it's supposed to just kind of be a dream in general, it could possibly work for that. But for anything useful, that'd be a bit of a stretch. Let's do this as a bonus one because it actually looks pretty good. A cat wearing a hat walks down a sunny street. So starting with the first frame, there is a cat in a hat. I like that. And it's walking a little bit weird, but not too bad. It's not growing new tails, it's not growing extra limbs or anything like that. The movement's pretty good overall. The lighting is pretty good. The scene is pretty good. Its feet are, for the most part, matching up with the ground's movement. Not perfectly, but better than we normally see. So overall, I would say this is a success, 70% of the way there. It's still not very realistic. We can still see very minor issues, but compared to the average that I've seen with Sora, this is definitely a step up. For number 10, let's see what's going on here because I'm pretty confused. Slicing soap and Subway Surf TikTok. So, okay, it makes a little bit more sense now. Immediately we have this, I guess it's kind of rainbow colored soap. It's uncutting it, maybe, because that knife looks like it's really down in there, but then it's almost like it's played in reverse and it's perfectly fine. I have yet to see any sort of tool like knife manipulation and either cutting something or engraving something. I've seen quite a few people ask for that, but it has never been successful that I've seen. So we start out with the soap cutting and then all of a sudden it goes to them massaging the soap, and then it abruptly cuts over to a Subway Surfer type thing that just looks like terrible graphics. These are like, I don't even know, early 2000s type graphics. And this video is 480p but 10 seconds long, so it took some credits to make this too. And both parts are pretty unusable, especially the Subway Surfers. If they actually wanted it to be at all authentic to that sort of gameplay, this is plausibly like some Subway Surfer gameplay, but then all of a sudden it just goes to this, more like Mario 64 type of third-person exploration game. And all of the sort of on-screen UI is pretty much unusable. That's another pretty easy way to spot some AI-generated stuff, because that would never look like that in any actual video game. So two halves to this, the cutting or the slicing of the soap doesn't really work. And it's actually 3 scenes where they're kind of uncutting it with the knife, and then they kind of massage the soap a little bit, and then it abruptly cuts over to the Subway Surfer clip that looks good at first and then just kind of derails. Well, actually, looks good at first is a bit of a stretch, isn't it? So that'll do it for this episode's 10 videos looking at, critiquing, and laughing at some of the Sora. I can't help but do another bonus one. This just caught my eye and it looks crazy. An astronaut doing a somersault on the moon face to camera. So let's just watch this. Now that's something. I imagine there could be some pretty wild breakdancing on the moon since it has about 1/6 of Earth's gravity. Now a couple issues with this other than just the movement. The moon's surface, I've never really seen it look like that, but even if we set that aside, what's this in the background? It should probably be the Earth? Nope, it's not. That's another moon apparently, so maybe it's a moon that isn't our moon. Yeah, and then those movements, so dancing, gymnastics, stuff like that is always pretty crazy, but this isn't even like unusual movements. Again, it's the morphing of the body, limbs popping in and out of existence, melding together, separating, the head coming out of various parts. That is the craziest windmill I've ever seen in my life. But even being that crazy, it still has shadows on the ground that are kind of moving in a plausibly correct way. And they generated this in 1080p, so that means they're on the $200 per month plan. It's 5 seconds long, and I would say that out of this, the first second is usable, and then after that it just derails and you couldn't use that for much of anything. So that'll do it for episode 5 of Sora is Bad. I hope you join me for the 6th episode coming up soon, and thank you for watching.